Hello, I'm sitting here with Kevin Curphey, who has been super kind, decided to let me listen to him talk about, sounds like a bunch of interesting things today.
I'll take my acid tab.
Oh, sweet. This is really getting started.
I ain't the one. I never was the one. I'm just another son of a gun. Grandpa has the skin of a drum, but you can run, but you won't escape where you won't escape from. So how are you, D?
Pretty good.
We already discussed all this shit. Can I say shit on your show? Can I cuss on your show? Or is that?
Oh, I don't care.
have a
on
really
all my videos, like I put this isn't for kids because I just want to make sure I'm safe. I don't want no kids getting into my videos and me getting in trouble.
I just thought of that.
No, you're totally fine. Just go ahead and come in unhinged. I'm good with that. You know what? If you want to make this fun, you want to try and beat what in my opinion, my most interesting, entertaining video, please try and beat that.
I'm not trying to advertise Pepsi. In fact, this is an anti-advertisement, but I will say my mother started giving me this stuff when I was 4 years old. And I remember I got spanked at 3 years old for picking it. It was in my dad's glass, and it was my favorite glass, great big, like, it was probably real small, but at the time it was huge. And I picked it up, I took a little drink, and she told me not to. She spanked me. But then, like a year later, she gave it to me on my birthday, and I've been drinking it ever since. The worst stuff on earth, but I drink it every day. Just, I don't know, a little anti-advertisement, I don't know what you want to call it. But I don't even know if you can say Pepsi on your show. Like, is that even legal?
I don't know.
This is my basically my version of crack right here.
I'm gonna find out when the Pepsi company busts through my door later tonight. So for that.
You're like, got me demonetized, damn it.
They're gonna bust in Pepsi SWAT masks and break my windows.
They're like, we want our royalties. They're like, I want my royalties. I fucking advertised you sons of bitches. So how are you today? What's your energy like? Like, I feel your aura is very white with roses and flowers and petals around.
This sweater was just clean today. Nice, I forgot I was wearing it, but no, yeah, I got my little thing back there. So everybody can't see my weird workout room I'm sitting in.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. That's really awesome. So tell me something that's interesting that's happened to you really quick. I'm just curious. Like just one interesting, just one anecdote or something that's happened to you in the last week.
The last week?
Yeah, in the last week.
My partner and my dad almost got into a fist fight on Christmas. I don't know if that's interesting, but
fucking awesome. I love it. This is kind of stuff I can really get into. So I don't need to know what caused it because that's probably a whole. But I'm curious, like, how did it end? What ended it?
Oh, I don't know if it was
other than the police, or were the police involved?
No.
Like, hell no. We had all the coke out. We wouldn't call them.
To be honest, I feel terrible for this. I would have let it happen if it wouldn't have caused problems for my mom. If my mom wouldn't have been there, I probably would have been egging it on more than I did. So I told him I looked at him, I was like, hey, you need to get in the car. We're just gonna go. But if my mom wouldn't have been there, it would have been a completely different story. So there's my interesting thing for you, I guess.
No, that's awesome. I love that. I can go off of that. I can go off of that really big.
I just gotta say to whoever was about to get a fist fight on Christmas and didn't, good job. But if you did get in a fist fight, also good job.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. No, I'm sure Joe Rogan would be proud of you.
Yeah.
I've watched I think maybe a total of 5 Joe Rogan episodes. I think maybe. If that. I watched the interview where he interviewed the guy that believed in time travel. I think he has a few of them, but one guy in particular was pretty interesting. I really liked him. And I don't know if I agree with him. The guy did a lot of mushrooms, so I'm sure if you do enough mushrooms, you can believe in anything.
I think it's DMT.
He's all about stories too. What's that?
I think he's all about DMT.
Is he? Is that what?
It's a joke about him. He's like DMT, which is funny.
No, I don't. If you take DMT more than once, doesn't it negate the experience of DMT?
I don't know. I've kind of been interested ever since I watched him talk about it, and I read about people that took it, and all I saw interdimensional beings, and I time traveled, and I saw another dimension, and I saw God himself, and I'm like, I don't think I could do that. I'm not ready to do that.
I'm so skeptical of anything that's mind altering, and then you say you've seen something, because if your brain is so powerful, and I think the mind is connected to everything though. So, and I'm not saying that like I don't want some people who are religious to be, oh, he's all new age, because I'm really not. And I'm really not like any kind of like religious kind of factor. What I do believe in very much though is the power of the mind, and I believe that in the in the power of thought. I believe very much that that we manifest our destiny by the power of the mind. It's like people it's like people. I've had people ask me, because I grew up in a very interesting life environment and different things. People ask me, well, it's like, is Satanism real, or is this real, or does witchcraft actually work? It's like, well, it depends. Everything is real in the sense that if you give power to it. And I'm not talking about some weird mystical thing of, oh, if you focus on the can, pretty soon it'll rise. That may be true, and there may be people I've like I said, I've seen some interesting things. I'm not gonna go too deep with different things I've seen as far as like people go, because it's all just thoughts. People can say, oh well, sure, you had this experience or that experience, whatever, but what I know is what I saw and what I've seen. So I've seen some interesting things, but the fact is, what is powerful is if you put thought and power into, if somebody says, look, if you go skin that rat and kill it and drain its blood, I'm going to give you $1,000. And then somebody goes and does that, so you give them $1,000. It's kind of like what Charles Manson did. Everybody believed in him so much they went and killed for him. And if you've got that kind of, and I'm not saying that's good in any way. I'm certainly not condoning that or saying that that's something a good factor in life that people do. That people are that controlled by money or power or the thought of attention or whatever. But if you have that kind of ability to say, hey, look, if I do this, if you do this, I'll do this for you, and you create a movement around that, then pretty soon that movement becomes a thing. And that's how politics works, and I won't get too political because I'm not big. Politics are a whole other discussion. I was actually asked to run for mayor, actually asked to run for governor of the state of Tennessee. Oh. And the guy told me, he's like, I'll make you governor, flat out. He says, I won't say what his name was or whatever, but I was in fact, I still have Joe Carr's personal cell phone number in my cell phone. Never called him, but I was told that I was one of his constituents. I had no idea who the man was when I was told this, and I was told, and Joe Carr got a call from the gentleman that I was sitting with at 2 a.m. and told that if I ever needed anything to be there. And I was like, this guy's a congressman, like he's 43rd representative of the state of or the 43rd district representative for Republican representative. And I was told, hey, look, if you run for governor, I'll make you mayor in the next couple of years, and then we'll push you on to governor. And at the time, I'm like, like I'm like, I'm dealing with this, that, and the other, and they're like, those things aren't issues. And I'm like, that's probably the problem that I have with politics, is that those aren't issues, because they should be. If people don't have their life together, how can they go and lead others? And that's what politicians are, basically a bunch of people leading other people. So anyway, it's kind of that same type of scenario, though. You've got this mass of people that's, let's say, oh, we're going to do this incantation or this ritual, and pretty soon it brings something to life. And it's interesting because I grew up around a lot of I said a lot of weird things. I've seen, people talk about shadow people, or people talk about, the Hat Man or something like this. I don't know, whatever you want to call these entities or these things in life. But I grew up, no drugs, no alcohol. My parents never did drugs or alcohol. They didn't allow it around me. They didn't have it around me. 7 and 8 years old, I was having out of body experiences by the time I was 2. So 2 years old, I can recall almost every minute of my life since 2 years old up. Entire long conversations with people, entire days, minute by minute. And I was brought up. I remember I was sitting in my crib, in my, like, the little kind of like, the bars on it and everything like that. I don't know if it was my actual crib or if it was a play thing, but I remember that it was something different than the original thing I was in when I was first born. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, I was taking a nap, and I was awakened, not asleep, not in some kind of state of sleepiness or unconsciousness. I was awakened, and there was a being. It was a kind of like a female type entity, and it took me up through the ceiling and through the clouds. And and once again, people can believe this or not, but what I know for sure is, because I question myself sometimes on certain things, but I know what I know for sure is from the top of the clouds, I was shown my entire life. I was shown in a very kind of obscure way, but there are things very spoken to me in code. Certain people I've met throughout my life, I knew I was going to meet years before I met them. Certain things that happened, conversations I've had, I've known what were going to happen before I ever had them. I knew what the people were going to say to me before they said it. And I'm talking like I had it in my head long before I ever met them. And so I know that there's something to the connection between the human mind and the ethereal realm of time and space. I don't know what that is. I couldn't pretend to tell you.
If I
And anyway, what were you saying? Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna put in there. There's something strange. I've never really said it to many people because I think it's kind of weird, but I guess I'm saying it now on my podcast. So before I've been to a place, like I'll just be told about like, hey, we're gonna go to this place, room, area, whatever. And it's really, really weird to me. I don't know why. I'll like picture what this place probably looks like based on, even if no one's told me what it looks like, the area, what kind of reason I'm going there. And I'll picture this place. And like most of the time, it's weird. I've shown up at the place and it looks a lot like what I pictured it as. And it's the strangest thing to me. And I've been able to do that since I was a kid. That's the only weird thing. I feel it's always kind of bothered me.
Yep.
Yeah, for real.
Yep. That's something that, like I said, I think that there's, I couldn't pretend to tell you exactly how it works or what it is. And I don't expect people to necessarily believe everything I say, because I've got a lot of, especially in this realm, I've got a lot of very unique things that happened to me. And whether or not some of those things were in my head or in the outer realm, in your head is basically just in your mind. And your mind, once again, gives validity to the outer realm. The outer realm gives validity to your mind, and back and forth. It's kind of like when okay, for an example, in this time when I brought back down into my crib, and I'm sitting there and I tell my mother when she comes in, I'm trying to explain to her at 2 years old, you're not super articulate, and I was trying to explain to her what had happened, and she took it as, of course, a dream. And she told me it was a dream, and I knew instantly it wasn't a dream, and I insisted that it wasn't. But what happened, one of the things is, my mother had been meeting with this lady who was she'd have tea with her. I usually couldn't think of her name, but right off the top of my head, I don't want to sit here and spend 10 minutes trying to think of her name, but I usually know her name. And so I think it was Nancy or something like that, but I usually know it off the top of my head. But anyway, we're sitting there, and every day at 11:30, it was right, because it was right after Mr. Rogers, I would go and I would play with my toys, and that was my toy time. And my mother would talk to this lady between 11:30 and about 12:30, and they would have tea every day, and that was my mother's tea time. And this lady was quite a bit older than my mother, and she would sit and talk to her. Now, they would talk a lot about religion, because my mother was a Baptist, and she'd always tell people the gospel of Jesus and these types of things. Excuse me. And so I'd hear them talking, and I wouldn't interrupt, because I was trained, never to interrupt adults, So unless I had obviously an issue or something I needed taken care of. So anyway, my when I was up in the clouds, I was shown this lady's house from the inside, and inside her house, she had a watchman. Now, watchman is a pamphlet for Jehovah Witnesses.
Okay, that's what I thought it was, like a watchtower kind of.
Yeah, watchtower. Yeah. Sorry, watchtower. You're right. Okay. It is not watchman. But yeah, and it's this pamphlet for Jehovah Witnesses, and I could hear her thoughts and her thinking. Now, the next Tuesday, because they always did this on Tuesdays. It wasn't, I think I said every day, it was every Tuesday. And the next Tuesday, she was thinking, I'm going to go ahead and present this to Diane Curphey, who's pretty open-minded. And I think she'll listen to me because she has a real passion for what she believes. And if I can get her passionate about this, then she'll be a good advocate for my religion, basically not in a maniacal way, but just thinking that she's doing the right thing, just like my mother was thinking she's doing the right thing by preaching the gospel and this and that. And so I saw all this and I heard all this. She was the only one in the house. I could literally almost see her thoughts. I could hear everything she was thinking. I come back. Now, she had never presented this to my mother. I come back, and when I was talking to my mother, I just randomly bring up, so when is this lady going to talk to you with her watchtower? And my mom's not, she's like, watchtower. She says, you mean like, she says, the watchtower is something for the Jehovah's Witnesses. And, I'm my mother's belief. I'm not, trying to, I don't even really want to say what she said because it kind of stirs up stuff. But to quote her, she says, oh, well, Kevin, that's a cult. We don't get involved in that, and I don't believe that the Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult, but that's my mother. That was my mother's belief. So she says that to me, and I'm thinking, okay, whatever, I'm two, intrinsically know what that means at that point. But I do understand this lady has a watchtower, and I'm insistent on it. And my mother finally actually got upset about it a couple of days later when I'm just insisting she's going to bring over a watchtower. I saw this, and she's like, you've shot that lady who's never let you in her home. You've never seen a watchtower with her. Kevin, I want you to be quiet about this. You just came up with this. You probably heard somebody talking about it on the television, blah, blah, blah. Sure enough, that lady comes over the next Tuesday, and about halfway through their conversation, pulls out a watchtower out of her purse, hands it to my mother, and starts talking to her about it. My mother, to her deathbed, to the very last day we ever spoke, told me, I know something happened there. You were shown something, some kind of vision, something. Keep telling her. A being showed up, brought me up above through the rafters. I watched the asbestos that I was going through. I sat above the clouds. She showed me the entire world. She told me my life would be involved with music and with production. And these were things I was told that as I've gone through my life, things that have happened. And I'm not trying to guide them in that sense. Now, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the skeptics. Maybe it was all in my head, but for whatever reason, that lady had a watchtower and brought it over to my mother. There was some kind of connection between the ethereal and the mind. There was some kind of connection to my brain manifesting something in some way. And maybe I somehow accidentally saw it in her purse. I don't know, but that's what my mind did. And I think that that's a very, very powerful thing, whether or not it was 100% real or it was, and I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. I know what I believe. I personally experienced this. I believe it was real. And I'll say that without hesitation because I've had multiple experiences like this. But I've had over 200 out-of-body experiences in my life. I've had experiences where I've been driving down the road and sitting beside myself, watching myself drive. So
real quick,
there was a point where I could literally decide when I was going to have an out-of-body experience. And I've not been that in tune with things in the last 10 years. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, so this kind of stuff does interest me because I don't know what I should call it. I'm kind of on a spirit journey. I don't know. Because one of my other interviews, I was kind of talking to a man that wanted to talk to me about Christianity. I want to talk to a bunch of people that are from different religions, different viewpoints. That is one of my purposes. I'm trying to learn all sorts of different things. So this story, because of that, is interesting to me. I want to hear things just like this.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, I'm, and like I said, we kind of talked before we started the recording, and and it's like there's lots of things I could talk about. I could sit here and talk to you about doing stand-up comedy, sketch comedy. I could talk to you about multiple DJ gigs. I could talk to you about the 2 years of my life that I partied really hard. That's got a lot of stories about that. I could fill up a year's worth of podcast with that. I probably but this is something you kind of mentioned that was an interest to you as far as looking at deeper things on the spiritual realm. And I don't once again, I'm not discounting the Bible. I'm not discounting Christianity. I'm not discounting Mohammedanism. I'm not discounting Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons. I'm saying that, and I'm not discounting the atheists. I think that everybody has Actually, one of the guys I really like watching is Morg. I don't know if you ever seen him. It's long white hair. He
Oh,
dresses up like he wears dresses sometimes. Like the guy's really like anti-religion. But he's very interesting to listen to, and he makes some good points because he doesn't just throw out the baby with the bathwater. He doesn't just go, "Oh, I don't like Christianity and it's not my thing, so here," and throw it out. What he does is he analyzes. He has like, I think it's every week or every month he does like a Bible reading. I listened to one of them one time, and it's like he goes through step by step. Like, this is what this says. This is why I don't believe. And it's like I can understand certain many sides of it. I don't know about all sides, but I can understand many sides of why people get involved and wrapped up in a certain religion or a certain thing that they believe. And I have my own beliefs in God. I have my own beliefs in redemption and salvation, and I have my own beliefs in and I don't really want to get into those today. But if you ever want to talk about them, I'd be glad to talk about them.
for
But
sure. I would always love to do a part 2 if you're willing.
not right. It's not really the mode I'm in right now. I'm more of I'd rather like do stand-up comedy right now. But at the same time, they're very deep topics. They're very, and they're fun to explore. And I think that people should explore them rather than just believe. Faith is an amazing thing, but faith, even the Bible says, faith without works is dead. And faith is a substance of things hoped for. It's not the non-substance. It is. So I think to have faith, you have to have some kind of substance. And the substance in my life has led me to believe the beliefs that I have, and I don't even like to call them beliefs because they're always molding. They're always growing. I'm trying to always find deeper meaning to the things that I've experienced.
If I may, real quick, I was
yeah.
gonna make a joke. I said this to a counselor at one point because I try not to discredit anybody either, and this is one of my best ways of kind of putting a light or joke on it. If there is a spaghetti monster in the sky dictating us, just please explain to me why you feel that way, and that's not me. Like, just educate me on why. If you think there's a Leviathan lobster god dictating me, yeah.
No, I'm part of the lobster cult. I like this. Yeah, I like the direction you're going.
Yeah.
No. I thought that was the most hilarious thing. I literally read. See, there you go. The power of the mind. I literally read a meme one day. Okay, not too long ago. It was maybe I got my next acid tab here. My taffy, not Laffy Taffy. What's it called? Saltwater taffy. I love saltwater taffy, and you don't get it as much like in the Midwest and down in Arizona. It's really expensive when you see it, and it's usually like hard and not very good. Oregon has the best. It was invented in Oregon. You know that?
No.
Saltwater taffy was invented, I think, in Coos Bay or something like that. I watched a PBS special on it when I was 15. Anyway, but a totally different random subject. Sailing. I love sailing. I think sailing's a really good way to get in touch with the spiritual. You're out there by yourself and you're like, all right, God, I need to make it to the next shore without dry shipping. So anyway, but I like I totally forgot where I was going. But we were talking earlier, I don't remember if you were recording at the time or not. But, death is an interesting thing, and fear is an interesting thing, and people get, they live in this kind of realm of constantly protecting their environment, and that's I think a survival tactic. It's how the human race has thrived and learned and grown. But I tend to push the boundaries on that a lot in my life. I'm sorry, what's that?
Watching something super interesting right now. Like, I'll never forget this. With I don't want to brush too much on this, the COVID thing, and it's something that's super fascinating to me, and I wouldn't have expected. I don't know if I should have expected this, but I'm watching, at least in my world, I'm watching the people who are super afraid being attacked by the people who aren't, like, being attacked. I don't know if it's different for other people, if it's the other way around for them right now, but that's what I'm personally seeing. And it is super fascinating to me, like with I don't know if it's psychologically or what, that's happening with fear. Like, people are being mean to other people because they're afraid. And it's super fascinating to me. Like, it's like dumbfounded me lately. And it's kind of what you're talking about, like, people, the way that people react to fear react to death, and it's interesting, and that's kind of what people are doing right now. But that's the part of it that I'm like, I never would have thought it would be this way, if that makes sense.
Right. And I think it comes back to that I think it comes very back to that. Well, it's interesting because society's been pretty volatile for a while in the sense that everybody's just kind of waiting for that other, it's kind of like that Tool song, Anima. It's like it's kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, and they're waiting for the flood. They're waiting for and I think there's a sense of wonder and excitement about the World War III, apocalyptic, and I don't discount that there is a great need for extreme change in society, and that's coming about. I will obviously discount any form of violence towards other people because that's anti-productive. It's anti-productive to the whole of society, and of course, I don't like to hurt people or anything in general. I remember going out hunting when I was 17. And my dad taught me how to hunt very young. I was taught how to, skin and clean deer and stuff like that. And it was just something I never liked to see anything die. It really bothered me.
Yeah.
I remember my very first hunting experience ever, or very first death experience ever, was my dad bringing me out to watch. We went to see the birds. My mother taught me, and I knew my dad kind of held the same beliefs. My mother taught me, all creatures were created by God, and here I'm like, okay, this all powerful being, created these beautiful little birds, and I'm watching them every day outside. And my mother would be like, oh, aren't they beautiful? And she'd be praying to God, about, oh, thank you for bringing the little birds around, Jesus, and I'm going out, on this expedition with my dad, here's my dad, he's my hero, and we go out and he's got this gun and he's telling me, yeah, this thing will shoot this and that. And I'm just like, you don't have a concept of what's going on, and understanding of what's about to happen. I understood death because I had a Bambi album that I used to play. And I used to pretend I was going out hunting the people who killed Bambi. My mom's like, are you going to get the deer? I'm like, no, I'm going to get the son of a bitch that killed him. And so I and once again, I don't advocate violence. I was 3. Don't judge me. So I'm out there, and all of a sudden my dad lifts up the rifle. It's beautiful. I'll never forget a beautiful yellow and black bird. And he was so proud of himself. He shot it at like, I don't know, 50 yards or something like that. I saw it through the scope, and he shot it. We go look at it, and I'm like, why is it bleeding? Why is it on the ground? He's like, well, because I shot it. And I was devastated. I just remember, I just started bawling. I was like, why, it's dead. Like, we got to bring it back to life. Like, what, no, Jesus resurrected Lazarus. Like, we got to bring this little bird back, and that was where my heart was at. And it always has been. So I never liked hunting, but I went out hunting with my friend, Dawn. And it was the last time I ever pointed a gun at any kind of animal. Now, obviously, if my family was in desperate need of food or even in need of food, and there was no other way to get it, or if I go do what it took to make sure that they were taken care of. Unfortunately, the laws are such that they've I'm not 100% vegan, but I do definitely veer away from eating meat because of the industry, not necessarily because I don't like it, and not because I think it's totally bad for you. But I think anytime you're consuming or taking in death of any kind, whether or not it's watching it on TV, even movies, I'm real careful about what I watch and put into my mind. I don't watch Netflix, really. I don't watch TV. I loved the show Lost. I think that was the last show I really dived into, and I loved The House. I thought that was a great show, but I don't really get into too many TV shows or anything. And don't get me wrong, I've watched Rambo. I like some movies and things where there's a lot of action and things, but for the most part, I think that to just indulge day after day after day in a realm of death, whether or not it be hunting or war or action movies where people are dying and it's okay, it bothers. It really deeply bothers my soul, and I think it bothers society's soul, and I think we become desensitized, very much so, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
and you know, video games and things like that, I'm not against those. I think that that's, you know, I get it. It's kind of a healthy outlet for that kind of thing, maybe, because it is ingrained in our DNA, on a very intrinsic level
Well,
to be survivors and to fight for what we believe in, you know.
yeah, and if I may, I have heard that argument like, oh, we shouldn't be letting these kids play video games, blah 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 blah. It's like I've actually been playing those since I was like 4, and I it was a very good escape for things that had happened to me. And my joke about like, yes, there are violent ones, like there's we're shooting each other and killing each other, but there's also Mario, and there's these sweet games, and we're these games where we're building things and all this kind of stuff, and we're not killing people at all. There's one that I love, like, oh, it's violent. We're discovering the power of friendship. Yep, we should just shut them all down. So,
Right.
but
No, I get what you're saying.
I don't like to play the violent. I'm not like I don't want to play the ones that I'm just slaughtering and killing all the time either. That's not my thing. I want to build stuff like or that kind of
Like
thing.
Ark. I never played it, but I used to watch my little sister play Ark, and I want to play it sometime. I've just never taken the time to sit down and now it's interesting, and every once in a while you got to kill something or whatever. But it's like I said, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite in any way. I think we're all hypocrites to a certain extent. You know, the video game thing, I'm not a gamer. I like strategy games. I love chess. I love, you know, different strategy games and stuff like that, but I'm not really like, I don't get out and play video games a lot. But I understand why they're played, and not only understand, I actually think they're healthy. It's like I watched the movie Saving Private Ryan. You know, that didn't make me want to go out and kill people. It made me want to not ever be engaged in war. It made me not want to, you know. So I think some of the, like Braveheart, you know, I watch that and it's like, yeah, I get why he went out there on a freaking slaughtering rampage. You know, at the same time, it's not me. It's not what I would want to do, but touch my family, touch somebody I love. You know, you never know what you're capable of, and that's I think the interesting balance of life and love and passion and truth. We all have a truth that we live, and I think the biggest thing is, I think that we should all be. And I'm not trying to get too philosophical. I certainly am not trying to give people advice on life. I've had many fuck ups in my life, and things I've done totally opposite of what I want to do, or things that I did the way I wanted to do them, and then later go, what the fuck was I thinking? Like, what kind of person was I being? And but at the same time, if I could be so pretentious to say, you know, that the one thing that I would really uh, encourage in society, and would like to see encouraged in societies, for people to really know who they are, really truly own who they are. And if they're a truly bad person, great, because then we can find those people and go, oh, okay, we know to stay away from you. You live life however you want to live it. Don't touch somebody I love. Don't touch somebody, and you hurt them, then you go to prison, you go to jail, you get the death penalty. I'm not against the death penalty, you know, but at the same time, to go out there and deliberately invoke violence and deliberately invoke, like you said, oh, you're wearing a mask, or you're afraid of getting sick, so I'm going to make sure that you feel the power of what your fear is, or the opposite way around. You know, people can get radical on all ends.
Well, to me, my opinion on that, people are doing that for, and it could be more things than this, but one of two things, it's a defense mechanism to them, because people don't realize, like, I'm strong, and like you said, I know who I am, and it is my defense mechanism to react that way, whether they realize it or not. And the other thing, unfortunately, reason that people may act in that way, it's nuts, it's crazy. I think some people, that's the only way, and it's sad, the only way they can get their dopamine and their serotonin is to act in those certain ways. And that's the issue.
Very much it.
That's the issue, though, because then there's nothing else they can do but
Well,
those things. And how do you stop those people? Because that's where they're getting that from.
Right. It's a drug to them, very much. And you bring up such a good point, and that's exactly, it goes exactly along with what I was saying, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because it allows me to expand on what I was saying. I was going to kind of stop it there and move on to something else, but I'll tell you, that's exactly what I was saying about people knowing themselves. That's the number one thing. And I said, you know, if you're a bad person, great. I think I want to really clarify. I want to really draw out what I was meaning there, because it's not that I would hope for bad people to be around. It's that we all have our own definition of good and bad. My definition of, some people are hunters. You know what? I do not demonize them for going out and enjoying hunting. I personally do not. I personally cannot. And I'll tell you my story of the last time I ever went hunting. But I personally can't do it. I don't feel right about it. I feel like if I did, it would violate who I am, and I have to be true to myself. And I think that's what I was meaning, personal integrity. Because if you're doing that, you're getting your dopamine and serotonin from being high on the fact that you are excited about being the person you are. I get excited when somebody crosses the street in front of me and I wasn't expecting it, and I have a chance to wave at them instead of go, "You fucking son of a bitch! What the fuck?" You know what I'm saying? People do that. I see it all the time. Oh, or even just getting disgusted. Oh, she made me wait extra 5 minutes. I get excited that I go, and I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else. This is just me. I feel a little bit of drip of serotonin just going like, "Ooh, hey, have a nice day." And they're waiting for me to yell at them or something. I'm like kind of waving, and they're kind of like, oh, some of them like will actually get people that react weird. Like they'll get pissed off that you treated them nice. And those are the people that I just kind of like laugh at, like, you made my day because you just proved my theorem.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the last time I ever went hunting, I was 17 and I went with my friend Don. And I won't say his last name just because he's a pretty big public, or not public figure, but he's got a very prestigious job in career where in the area that I live. I don't know exactly where you live, but in the Southern Oregon area. But we went out and we were very best of friends. We hung out every day together, pretty much every day. And well, pretty much every day and night we hung out together. And so we went out hunting, and we'd been out that entire season and not found one freaking deer except a little teeny fawn that was stuck in something. And we kind of like drove the car close enough that it jolted enough that it got out, because we were like, we just wanted to make sure it wasn't, we knew we couldn't touch it because it would be, abandoned by its, mother or whatever. But when we left, it was real tiny. It was real small. It looked like a little teeny puppy. And but we kind of got the car close and kind of squealed the brakes, and it jolted enough that it jumped out of the, it was stuck. It was completely stuck up in the bushes. So anyway, that was an interesting. And then there's another thing where we're out hunting, but we're not going to kill a little fawn, it barely had a life. So and that's something I love about you. Don's a very compassionate person, which allowed me to be the compassionate person I was, even though he almost killed me on this trip. So we go out, and we've been looking for, it's doe season now. It's into doe season. It's literally, I think, the last day or last week, and we're out there. We have not seen one freaking deer in the wild like that entire buck season. Doe season, I think he and his dad shot one at the very beginning of the year. So we're out there hunting. All of a sudden, we're going down this row out towards like far side of Eagle Point, where there's bushes on either side of us, huge tall bushes, and we have the signal, that we'd give if we saw something. All of a sudden, I hear his signal, so I know something's coming through the bushes. So I stop, I raise my gun, and I've got my rifle in my hand and the deer crossed in front of me, and I stopped to itch my nose, and it stopped dead as soon as it saw me. It just stopped dead. It's got the leg up in the air, just stopped. And I stopped to itch my nose, took my finger off the trigger. Gun's in the same place. Did not move my arms. I was very careful to, because I didn't want it to bolt. And I scratched my nose, and it starts walking. Put my finger back on the trigger, and it stops. So I pulled my finger away from the trigger. It starts walking. It's watching my fucking trigger finger. This is a smart animal, and it's probably 20 yards out, 30 yards out, someplace in there. It's not very far away, but at the same time, far enough that it's watching not my rifle, my trigger finger. It knows that can kill it. And when I put my finger back on it, I did this about 5 times, and every time it would start moving, I'd wait. I did it at different time intervals to see if it's just out there for almost a minute one time. And Don's like, finally, he's like, when are you going to shoot? I hear him from the other side.
Are you
and
gonna
he's like, what happened? And I see the deer kind of move its head a little bit towards his voice. And I was just about to take a shot, and I was like, I put the gun down like this to see what it would do. Boom, it bolted. And it's like, man, that is a smart fucking animal. And And I mean, it could be, it is probably somebody's mother. It is somebody's wife. You know what I'm saying? Like why it was somebody's child,
Right.
and I'm going to take its life. That's not. I didn't feel good about that, and I've never
Yeah.
gone on hunting since. I thought Don was going to kill me. He's like, only fucking deer the whole season, and you get compassion.
I like that though.
He's
It's a good
a very
story.
compassionate person, and it's something that, but it was a very beautiful experience to me, and I've always been, I think, but, and like I said, I think that it's very much the mind creates the reality that we want, because ever since then, I was 17 at the time, but I've had more and more opportunities to see beautiful things because of my compassion. And I know I'm not saying that egotistically or anything, but literally I've had things where I've gone, I'm not going to do this. This is not part of my principles of life, and had beautiful, just amazing things open up to me. And I think maybe that's why I have had a lot of spiritual, ghost-like type, ghost-like type experiences.
If I may really quick.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. I really like that story, by the way. I'm pretty similar. Like, I'm not really a hunter myself. Like, I'd be okay with fishing, but I couldn't shoot at deer. To me, it's like, why do I have any right? Obviously, if I was starving, kind of like I think you said earlier, but why do I have the right, if I wouldn't go out in my front yard and shoot my dogs, to go out into the woods and shoot a creature? Like, to me, there's almost no difference. However, and I hope I don't piss anybody off, because it just seems like everybody gets angry about everything. And I'm going to say, before I say this, I haven't done it. And I think I haven't done it for a reason, because I'm kind of like you. I'm going to say that I would do it, but I'm going to get out there and I can't do it. I can't kill something. I hate turkeys. I hate turkeys so much. There are people that might see this that aren't from an area that has turkeys. I don't want to hear it. They're the stupidest creatures I've ever been around in my life.
No, you're right though.
No, you'll drive.
And if you
You'll
run
like be
into the
driving
wild, they're dangerous. They're actually like fucking.
yeah.
You don't want to run into the wild.
No. But like, I'm talking about the turkeys that are around people too much. You'll drive at them and they'll be in a giant herd, even literally blocking the road, and you'll honk, you'll start driving them. You could get out of the car and start throwing things at them. They'll just. That's how they are. And there was a point where I never wanted to hunt, kind of like you, and I saw turkeys so much. I got this strange bloodlust. I wanted to go get a bow and kill turkeys. And someone was like, why? And I was like, I don't know why. I just want to go kill turkeys. And they're like, okay, well, we'll go get a bow and go blah, blah, blah. Go out into the road and shoot one. I was like, no, I don't want to do it like that. I want to go out into the woods with just only like 5 or so arrows, and I want to chase them like I'm chasing them like I'm gonna starve to death. I want to charge and chase these things in the woods. That is the only way. I had this like bloodlust to chase these things in the woods. I don't think I actually wanted to kill a turkey. I just think I wanted to chase one through the woods with a bow.
You just wanted to make it feel the anxiety that you feel when they're just sit there looking at you like they're fucking stupid.
That's the only animal I've ever wanted to kill, is a turkey. And I don't want to piss anybody off, because, by the way, I still haven't done it. I don't think I want to, but that's the only time that's went through my mind, because I hate them so much.
It's like that video game, it's a good release in your brain for your fantasy of some kind of bloodlust. I think that's ingrained in human nature, though, to have something that's like, to have something that's kind of like, oh, I am going to like conquer. I was going to say accomplish. That's not the right word. But conquer. I'm going to wring your fucking neck for being so.
No, we're tribesmen again, because every time I envisioned me going out of the woods and doing it, I envisioned like putting paint on my face and running through the woods like, I'm chasing this thing with a bow and arrow.
Right.
We do.
Right. No, I get it. And I think that's they're like native culture. There's a lot in native culture that, where they honor the dead, or they honor that which they had to, take its life because that's what gave them food. That's where they got their nourishment from. I think as we grow and I don't like the word evolve, because I think it's so cliche, it's overused. It's definitely technically accurate in some areas. especially when it comes to our understanding and our growth and understanding. But I think we're evolved to as we go along to a higher plane, to a place where, and I'm not trying to get new age about it. It really is kind of this place where you just go, why do I need these things in my life? It's kind of like why do you have to have it's kind of like when you're a kid and you're pretending you have Barbie dolls, or you have GI Joes, or you've got something, and pretty soon, as much as you may have a passion for that imagination, you can channel that imagination into other things. It's kind of like, as much as you have a passion of bloodlust for that adrenaline, which is really just activating a certain amount of dopamine in your brain, which is what it's doing. You can have that passion for other things. I was abducted, or almost abducted, twice by two younger couples. They were probably in their 20s or early 30s, where they literally tried to pull me into a car 2 totally separate times. Once I was 9, once I was 11. And they grabbed me and were real nice to me at first, and so I've got a few trust issues too, because of certain things that happened to me in my life. I can be standoffish in certain areas, especially in social arenas. I get extreme anxiety, but but I channeled that. A lot of people could have channeled that into anger or hatred or total fear. I think what I channeled into is, I worked for the National Center for Missing Children for many years. I went out and I did a lot of work for them. I did a lot of door-to-door activities in the beginning, and then I did a lot of stuff behind the scenes and worked with them for a long time. And that's, I think, where I channeled into was that rage of sharing about people who do something like that, or thinking that somebody might do something like that. Instead of letting it overtake me in anger, I still had the same rage. I still had that same, because I got away. How many kids didn't?
Right.
It still bothers me to this day. I can see their faces as clear as day. I can remember everything they said to me. One of them chased me and jumped over a fence when I jumped into somebody's backyard, chasing me through the backyard. Fortunately, the lady inside opened the glass door. The guy bolted and jumped back over the fence. And he and his girlfriend, wife, I don't know who it was, guy and a girl. But so it's like I have this kind of like, as soon as I hear something about that kind of thing, I get this excessive rage about me. That's just like, I'll tear them apart, But I think what I do is, instead of going out and I could become like a vigilante and look for those kinds of people and hurt them, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to channel into something positive. And yeah, it's painful. It's really painful. I remember walking up to a deputy sheriff's. This is in Grants Pass. Walking to a deputy sheriff's house and asking if I could put flyers up. And and he had the deputy sheriff's thing on his yard. All this type of stuff. I could tell he was a deputy. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, how's your day?" I said, "You're a deputy in this valley?" He says, "Yeah, I am a deputy in this county." And he was drinking a beer, and he was probably his day off or whatever. He's out there with his girlfriend or wife or whatever. And I started handing him flyers. He's like, "You're not allowed to solicit here." He said, "I have a sign that says no soliciting." He said, "I could sick my dog on you right now." I'm just like, man, like there's this part of me that right there just wanted to, like,
Right.
just clock the motherfucker. Just be like, "Dude, you're a fucking deputy. How the hell are you gonna act like?" But you know what? I took my shit and I left. And I said, "I'm sorry to bother you." I said, "I hope you gain some type of insight and compassion in life. I'm trying to put up flyers for the Joe. Oh, I don't care what you're trying to do. You're not supposed to be on my yard offering me anything." Okay, whatever, And I get it. It's just private property. He has a right to act like that. I have the right to I don't wish anything bad on him to this day. That was why I was 20. I was 19 at the time that happened. I don't wish anything bad on him to this day. But you know what? Karma really does come around to people, and I've seen that in my life. Every single thing I've ever criticized somebody over has happened to me. Everything that I've ever been like really hardcore in my mind, not just like ha ha ha, but really hardcore, where I've looked and I've gone, I would never. Why would you ever let that happen? That's fucking stupid. It ended up happening to me. And so I'm trying nowadays in my life to be very careful of looking and going, you know what? Things happen. Life happens sometimes. Sometimes it's nobody's fault. Sometimes it's because we're stupid. Sometimes it's because somebody else is stupid. It's all about learning, growing, compassion. And I didn't mean to get so philosophical on this. I was actually in a really kind of calm, comedic mood when all day. And so anyway, I got a lot on my mind, but yeah, no, I love the fact you allow an open forum to for people to really get thoughts out. I have a an interesting story about something that happened when I was in if you want a ghost story,
Yep.
because I'll give you one. I have many, because I've had a lot of interesting things, and I don't believe they're in my mind, but at the same time, everything's in our mind. Everything. This is an augmented reality at the very best. If it's not just actually created, more like a matrix type system, which I believe is probably more the possibility that we're all connected in some way. Recently, this isn't the story, but recently my very first girlfriend ever, very first girl I ever loved, I should say. We weren't ever technically going out, but we were together every day for 3 years. And I was just madly in love with her. And she hadn't been online and not logged onto the internet at all in any way, not Facebook, not Google, nothing, for 3 years. And I was just thinking about her and just, oh man, I just was, just thinking about her hardcore. And all of a sudden, she came on the next day for the first time in 3 years. We hadn't talked. The last time she came on, we talked. So I think that everything is connected to a certain extent. One time I was staying at this warehouse, and it was a place called Themers. It was a theming agency. They booked me. They did a lot of. It used to be a DJ, and I used to book out all over, and they were one of my main booking companies. So they would book me $2,500 a night sometimes. It was an amazing gig that I had with them. But they also let me live in the warehouse, which is really cool because I have access to all their any musical instrument I could possibly use. And I wrote a lot of my music back then, and love for the album that I've gotten and all those types of things. So I was staying there, but I had a reoccurring dream over and over and over. And I had it, I think, 6 times the total of when I was there over a period of a year. And it was this girl in a bed in exactly the room that I was staying in, but it was more like a bedroom. And she was on the bed, and the bed was on fire, and she was burning. Her flesh was burning off, and she'd be screaming to me, Kevin, speaking my name, help me, screaming, can't you see me? I'm burning, screaming. And I'd be outside, like almost in another dimension. And I'm like, but looking in from a hallway that didn't exist. It was actually outside the building. And I'm watching her. I couldn't do anything. And she's like screaming, help me. And every time it was the same dream, but every time it was different. It was the same dream, but it wasn't just like a rerun. She was going, here, I'm here again. I'm showing you what's happening. Help me. I see you there. Help me. And to this day, it gives me chills. It really, I don't know if the word bothered me was bad, but I somehow feel like what she went through. I don't know what, I don't know where this came from, but I did some research on the building. The building burned down back in the 1920s, and it had burned down once before it burned to the ground from a fire. And so you never know. Like that was something that I had some strange experiences there with different things, and I was making a lot of music at the time, and I was really intensely in a mode of I was doing a lot of meditating. I was doing a lot of spiritual connection type stuff. And but that was one of the things that I had, like I would go, when I go back and we'd pick up, there was a huge warehouse of all these props, like just dozens and dozens of props. And so I'd go back and pick up, help load the props and stuff, because the people who booked me, or the agency that booked me, it was only fair that I helped. They're giving me pretty good money for doing the gig, so I'd help them load up the props, and then they pay me a little extra sometimes if I wanted to go help with the setup and stuff like that, which once in a while I would. But I had an experience where I went back and I was loading up the props, and I heard a voice and I saw an arm. And I'm like, there was nobody there. I mean, I'm talking nobody. Now, this isn't the most secure place on earth. Like, there could be, but we had a big chain on the door. There's a lot of equipment in there. Somebody gets in that place, they're probably going to go after the equipment. Of course, that was in a more secure place. This is back in the actual warehouse place. Somebody could have gotten in, but I saw this arm kind of like almost like just kind of like in passing, and it was down at the end of the hall. And I said, hello, and I heard the footsteps, and I said, hello. And I followed as far as I could, but it was a long hallway, long areas where all these props were. And then I heard a couple of things move, and all of a sudden I turned around, and one of the props was a lady, prop of a kind of a witchy type lady. It was for a Halloween thing. It was sitting up directly behind me, and it was not there as I walked past it. It was like it was it was in the cardboard, not cardboard, but particle board, cutouts. And as I walked past, when I turned around, it was boom right there. And man, it gave me the fucking chills. Like I was just like, whoa, like I didn't want to touch it. I thought my hand was gonna go through it or something. I put it back, and I'm just like, there was something.
Yeah.
But after that, I never had that dream. That was about the 8th month I lived there, and the last 4 months I was there for a year. The last 4 months I lived there, I never had that dream again, and I felt peace. Before that, I never felt peace staying in that room, which is where I stayed, because I would oftentimes be up all night because I worked on my music whenever I get creative, and then the guy was there, first thing in the morning, so I'd stay up in that room. But anyway, so that's one story. I'd be glad to tell you more sometime, but I know you're coming down on a timeline here. But I really appreciate meeting you and talking to you. I heard some really good things about your show and really good things about you, so I look forward to seeing where everything goes for you.
Yeah, and if you'd ever want to, I'm more than willing to do a part 2, because it sounds like you could definitely fill me on some more. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And but yeah, is there anything, other thoughts or questions you have for me?
Not that I have enough time to ask, unfortunately. But
Well, I'll tell you this. My mother on her deathbed told me, she said, Kevin, she said, you could not tell a short story to save your life. She's like, everything with you is an extension of an extension of an extension. And I really do tend to do that. So I apologize if I took up too much time. But I hope we covered some good ground for you.
No, you're totally fine. I'm always worried like someone's gonna come on here and like stall or not talk, and I'm gonna be like, hey, tell me something funny, like, or something. It's gonna be super weird. Like, I've been lucky, not one person has done that yet. Like, they have just been like going on and on and on, but I'm scared that's gonna happen. So thank you I'd rather someone not stop talking than me have to be like, say something.
If I ever am gonna stall, I'll just be like, so what would you do if you saw a 3-legged canoe driving down the street backwards? How many pancakes would it take to cover a doghouse? And then you'd be like, dude, put down the acid. And I'd be like, I'm not under the alcohol influence, like some people I am. Hey, I'll let you go. I have some things to run to, and I really appreciate you. And anytime you want me on your show, I'd be happy to do a part 2.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope
you have
a good rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.